the more compelling historic date is May 4th, 2023. And I'm extremely honored and humbled to be on this stage with the likes of Colonel Dedman and KJ, and to have some of the folks in the room from 3680A. Those were that's led by Lieutenant Colonel Seth Barrett, led that charge when we were tasked in January of 2023 to deliver ballistic missile defense capability to the people of Ukraine in the form of a Patriot battery. So that training occurred just down the road here at Fort Sill. And then in April of 2023, we conducted a combined validation exercise with the Ukrainians that were trained by the Germans, with the Ukrainians that were trained by the Dutch, and the Ukrainians that were trained by the Americans. And in Poland, we conducted a validation exercise. That went on for 2 weeks. Then the equipment was transferred into Ukraine and was in place to protect the city of Kyiv by the end of April. And at approximately 02:30 in the morning, local time in Kyiv, the Ukrainians engaged their first air-launched ballistic missile with a U.S.-donated Patriot battery.
So I'll rewind the footage a little bit. And Tony spoke to kind of General Brady's, outlook on the theater. One of the things they did, I think it was at the request of the Ukrainians, we parachuted Jeff Porter and the team into Ukraine. They did an assessment in December of 21. And it really spoke to, which I think is the crux of your question, the power of relationships. And I think if we had not had Colonel Porter and those folks, I think he took our G2, I think they had a lawyer and some other folks. They took some of our Patriot super smart folks, planners, and they parachuted in there and spent some time with the Ukrainians and really looked at a problem set that, if you fast forward like 2 months later, that they were absolutely facing. I think that brought us some goodwill. We'll be the first to tell you that the initial engagement with the Ukrainians, and I'll start with them, and then maybe I'll speak a little more broadly about the alliance and how we're working at more recently and some of the things we're doing across the command. But I think Jeff Porter brought us some goodwill with the team that we got in there early, right? And then Justin Logan had some place to start with when SAGU, I guess 18th Airborne Corps, Lieutenant General Donahue at the time, said, hey, we need to get an AMD person inside to really best advise and assist the Ukrainians in that case. If you want to see some place that's already doing composite, go to any major city in Ukraine, and there's no way that they're defending that without composite capability. We sometimes tend to call that layered air defense. They're doing composite. The only difference is they're not integrated, right? They're doing little eye integration and not big eye integration. Now with some of the former Soviet systems, they are able to integrate a little bit. Now the latest is, I wish Dave Miller was here and on this panel, because that cat has done a phenomenal job of really, and you all will probably see this in the news in the next few months or so. He's done a phenomenal job, and the team of 140 Alphas, of really moving the ball, not just with the alliance, the NATO alliance, but more specifically the work that he has done with the 140 Alphas and some other folks across Europe to enable the Ukrainians is going to pay huge dividends, I think, here from the integrated air missile defense side. So we're going to grow that little eye, and that's only because of our 140 Alphas and the folks across Europe that are really helping to get the Ukrainians in a better place.
The 9688 Brigade commander, who is the Ukrainian air defense commander that's responsible for the protection of Kyiv, in his brigade, he has Patriot, NASAMS, IRIS-T, Ukrainian-based S-300s and S-125s, German-donated Gepards, U.S.-donated Avengers, arrayed along known air enemy avenues of approach to engage targets, particularly one-way attack drones, even before they arrive into populated areas and cities. So I think we take a look at how they're employing the systems. And in my engagements with our other partner nations that have made significant donations to the Ukrainians, particularly the Norwegians and the NASAMS, and the Germans who have donated IRIS-T and Gepards, you know what you gave them. Whether it's a battalion of IRIS-T, a battalion of Patriot, and the capabilities that those provide, take a look at how they're using them. They have probably about a Patriot battalion operating in Ukraine right now. Some of it's being used to protect static sites and critical national infrastructure. Others are being moved around and doing some really historic things that I haven't seen in 22 years of being an air defender. And one of them is this ambush. What's come to be known as the surface air missile ambush. And they're doing that with extremely mobile Patriot systems that were donated by the Germans, because the systems are all mounted on the trucks. So they're moving around, and they're using these types of systems, bringing them close to the flat to gain and stretching the very, very edges, the kinematic capabilities of that system to engage the first A-50 C2 system back in January. What we've seen as an enduring theme is the power of layered defenses of these composite battalions. What I was able to observe over there is, in the defense of critical national infrastructure, they're facing a very, very complex threat. So we're looking at ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and one-way attack drones that are launched from multiple directions and are designed to arrive at its target at the same time. And so in order to have Patriot engage ballistic missiles, they have to have other systems around it to engage the other targets. And the Norwegian defense attaché that I worked with in Kyiv, he said it best, because wherever there was a Patriot unit, there was an NASAMS unit. And so he used to describe it, and he wasn't even an air defender. I think the guy was not even an air defense officer, but he kind of looked at the Norwegian donated NASAMS as the knight that protects King Patriot. And I think you can make that kind of analogy to really a triad of systems that are providing this layered defense, that are part of this composite battalion. They do quite a bit of rehearsals. One of the things I told the Germans when we did that validation training back in April of 2023 was the German trained Ukrainian Patriot unit. Those German trainers woke up that Ukrainian battery in the middle of the night and made them march order in place, fight an air battle, and then march order and take off somewhere. And I was like, I wonder why you did that. And it was a month later, they conducted some of their first ambushes where they're shooting down Russian Su-27s, along the Russian border. What we saw was a lot of interoperability challenges across their systems. I watched them during an air alert once try and navigate an air battle, and not to get into too much detail, but it's tough. Until they got that DPIC, those Patriot batteries were operating autonomously. And they're engaging based on an assumption, that this airspace is anything that's flying is hostile. So they're going to shoot it down. And they were over-engaging. They're engaging things that are outside of the defended asset. Colonel Dedman knows this, because his guys trained the Ukrainians, their kids. Like the TCO that shot down that first Killjoy is 23 years old. And they were operating these systems autonomously. So until we were able to provide them with different types of interoperability capabilities like the DPIC, until they were, to be honest with you, able to hack some of the Western donated systems to integrate it into their existing COPS and air operation centers, they were fighting this war on signal and cell phones. So really just an innovative, creative group of air defenders that are accomplishing some pretty remarkable things.